And the bigger point I'm making here is that Musk is using his unchecked powers to attack agencies that Americans and people around the world need. And in my estimation, he's doing so to feed an illusion that he and Trump are unstoppable. Dismantling USAID doesn't just cut foreign aid, it actually hurts American farmers who rely on the agency to buy their produce. Dismantling the Department of Education strips access to critical resources to kids in this country, kids with disabilities, and to funding to rural districts who need help, the very districts that handed Trump the presidency and who he claims he cares about. Kicking us off this Saturday night is California Congressman John Garamendi, a member of the House Armed Services Committee. Congressman, it's great to have you back on the show. I know this attack on USAID is very personal to you. You and your wife both worked in Ethiopia with the Peace Corps, and you've spent your entire career working with the agency. You've also protested DOJ's attempts to dismantle the agency and other institutions. We know about the impact USAID abroad has had, but I want you to tell us a little bit about dismantling this organization and the impact it will actually have on us here at home.
Well, there'll be several different ways it'll impact. You mentioned one of the very important ones, and that is agriculture. The Food for Peace program buys American grain and other products and ships those overseas to famine camps and other places around the world where support and food is necessary. That's just one of them. But also, USAID is a major player in preventing outbreaks and pandemics. They're working in some of the most difficult, dangerous places in the world. These are American people that are out there trying to stem it. Right now in Kampala, Uganda, there's an Ebola outbreak. And last week, perhaps not this week because of the shutdown, but last week, Americans were working in the clinics stemming and trying to stop that Ebola outbreak. And keep in mind, it's only 15 hours from Kampala to New York City. And somebody that has that infection could wind up. And so this is part of the work. The vaccination programs, more than 26 million people are alive today because of a program called PEPFAR, which is dealing with HIV/AIDS. So these programs deal with medical services. They protect us here in the United States from infections and pandemics that could come our way. And also, we are feeding people that are in desperate trouble. I've been saying that before Musk puts the USAID in the wood shredder, he ought to go to a famine camp and hold a starving baby in his arms and then come back and decide whether USAID is appropriate enough. USAID has figured out and is actually producing an emergency supplemental program that could save that baby that's on the way to dying from starvation. It is a horrendous issue. But also it goes beyond. We're talking economic development. We're talking about the support for the Ukrainian government. All these things are part and parcel of USAID. And shutting it down is a major hit to national security. Guaranteed. We pull out, China moves in, Russia moves in. We know that China wants to establish a base in Western Africa on the eastern part of the Atlantic Ocean. Why? So that they can threaten NATO and the supplies of oil and other shipments around the world. It's a major issue. But that's just one issue. That's the USAID. I cannot wait to see how Musk deals with the Pentagon. He is embedded. Right. He has billions of dollars of contacts with the Pentagon.
Yeah, so
it is unbelievable.
Let's talk about that.
I mean, we'll see.
Yeah, you're on the Armed Services Committee. Elaborate a little bit more. I mean, you voted against wasteful Pentagon spending numerous times throughout your career. What do you make of Trump's directives for Musk to go after the Pentagon? What do you think it means that Musk hasn't said anything at all about it since last night, especially since it's such an obvious conflict of interest for him?
Well, have you heard of Starlink? Guess who contracts with Starlink to provide communication services, certainly in Ukraine and other parts of the world? The military. Let's see, shall we put a satellite in orbit? Who's going to launch that satellite? Well, it's going to be Elon Musk's program, his SpaceX program. Billions of dollars of contracts. It's going to be enormous conflict of interest. The corruption angle is extraordinary. That's not to say it's not necessary that the Pentagon be carefully reviewed. I could probably name a $200 billion saving right off the top of my head, and that's the replacement of the Minuteman missile with the new Sentinel missile. Not necessary. $200 billion over the next decade, $20 billion a year. And by the way, a new bomb to go with it. Not necessary for the protection of the United States, and certainly not necessary for nuclear security. Beyond that, there are numerous programs and a careful look. But if Elon Musk wants to venture into the Pentagon, he best be ready for a conflict of interest and a corruption charge, which would probably be appropriate.
Musk also promised to kill the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and hours ago, Russell Vought took over as the acting head. Of course, everybody knows him from Project 2025. This bureau works against big banks and has helped many working families. How dangerous is it to have the co-author of Project 2025 now in this, powerful role, having come from one that is obscure?
Well, let's just take an example. It's been very, very clear that banks often and inappropriately are charging fees that are not known to the consumers. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has placed these banks on the table and saying you can't do that. So consumer protection, banking, other kinds of economic activities that all of us engage in are going to be forgotten. So we don't have somebody out there, a federal agency, that's helping us make sure that we're not being cheated by one or another of the financial organizations. And it's a very serious. I was the insurance commissioner in California for 8 years, over a 16-year period of time. And I know that the insurance industry does cheat, does pay its claims late, and pays little. So somebody has to watch over and to hold these institutions accountable. We might also look at the FEC. Why would, the FCC, the Federal Communications Organization, why is Musk taking that on? Does that have something to do with X, the former Twitter program? Probably so. We do know that Elon Musk is working in areas that are clearly a conflict of interest to him. And this is a major problem. We could talk about the Treasury and giving Musk the keys to the Treasury. Why would he want to have information on every single American? All of our Social Security, all of our addresses. So what would it mean? Well, it means it is the biggest data breach ever. China would certainly be looking at this and going, well, if only they could do it. But Trump and Musk have managed an extraordinary data breach.
And it's not reassuring when he has one of his employees who already is alleged to have stolen company secrets. So not a reassuring situation at all. Congressman John Garamendi, greatly appreciate your time as always, sir. Thank you. Next up, we're going to dig in more on Russell Vought and how